Welcome everyone, and I'm going to talk more about what it takes to become a multi-planet species. Just a brief refresher on why this is important. I think fundamentally the future is vastly more exciting and interesting if we're a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species than if we're not. You want to be inspired by things. You want to wake up in the morning and think the future is going to be great. And that's what being a spacefaring civilization is all about. It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past. And I can't think of anything more exciting than going out there and being among the stars. That's why.
You basically taught yourself a lot of things in computer programming as a child, and after taking physics and economics in college. You taught yourself automotive technologies, and then rocketry, battery technology, and so on and so forth. What's the motivation behind all this?
Well, I find that I basically learn whatever I need to learn to accomplish an objective. I think actually most people could do this, but they often self-limit. People are capable of more than they think. I mean, what I've found is if you simply read a lot of books and talk to people, you can learn almost anything.
For this, there are many more ways to fail than to succeed. So you have to explore. I mean, particularly for a rocket, there's 1,000 ways to think and fail, and one way it can work. So you could have a lot of rocket failures to explore all the ways in which it could fail. But I do think that one great thing about Silicon Valley is that failure is not a big stigma. So it's if you try hard and it doesn't work out, that's okay. You can learn from that and do another company, and it's not a big deal. And I think that's really one of the great things about Silicon Valley.
So you are very famous in saying that failure is actually an option, and if you're not failing, that means you're not innovative enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I like failure. I mean, who likes failure? Is terrible. But if you only do things that are certain to succeed, then you're only going to be doing very obvious things.
Just to show you where we started off, in 2002, SpaceX basically consisted of carpet and a mariachi band. That was it. That's all of SpaceX in 2002. As you can see, I'm a dancing machine. Yeah, I believe in kicking off celebratory events with mariachi bands. I really like mariachi bands. But that was what we started off with in 2002. And really, I mean, I thought we had maybe a 10% chance of doing anything, of even getting a rocket to orbit, let alone getting beyond that and taking Mars seriously. But I came to the conclusion that if there wasn't some new entrant into the space arena with a strong ideological motivation, then it didn't seem like we were on a trajectory to ever be a spacefaring civilization and be out there among the stars. Because in '69 we were able to go to the moon, and the space shuttle could get to low Earth orbit, and then obviously the space shuttle got retired, but that trend line is down to zero. So I think what a lot of people don't appreciate is that technology does not automatically improve. It only improves if a lot of really strong engineering talent is applied to the problem that it improves. And there are many examples in history where civilizations have reached a certain technology level and then have fallen well below that, and then recovered only millennia later. Right now, we're just trying to make as much progress as we can with the resources that we have available, and just sort of keep moving ball forward, and hopefully, I think as we show that this is possible, that this dream is real, not just a dream, it's something that can be made real. I think the support will snowball over time. And I should say also that the main reason I'm personally accumulating assets is in order to fund this. So I really don't have any other motivation for personally accumulating assets except to be able to make the biggest contribution I can to making life multiplanetary.
It's hard to say what the future will be with something like this brain-machine interface. I doubt that we would be able to eliminate all suffering, and it actually may be ultimately oddly dystopian if we do eliminate all suffering. That actually may not be a true utopia. There's generally stories about utopia tend to turn into dystopia. So But I think we can definitely make a significant difference, and we can address, when I say we, I mean humanity can address a lot of the suffering that occurs in the world and make things a lot better. And I think a lot of times people are quite sort of negative about the present and about the future, but really I think if you're a student of history, when else would you really want to be alive? Now's the best time, pretty much. Yeah. It's like, those who think the past is better have not read enough history.
The goal of Tesla was literally this, is like, to what degree, in fact, when we created it, we're like, okay, the fundamental historic good of Tesla should be measured by the degree to which we accelerate the advent of sustainable energy and transport. And our goal all along has been to try to get the rest of the car industry to go electric. We did a joint venture thing with Toyota and with Mercedes. We open sourced our patents 3 or 4 years ago, made them freely available. So it's extremely rewarding to see that the rest of the industry is going electric. This is great, great.
At those closest moment of a failure, what did you say to yourself? Can I survive this? And
no,
you didn't question yourself.
No, no. It was more. I mean, it was just the difficulty is that in those situations, like there's so much responsibility that you have to the employees and to the investors who have come along. So it would have been I would have been really disappointed if I had not been able to keep my responsibility to have the company survive.
Mm-hmm. You said you almost had a nervous breakdown. Where did the tenacity or the resilience come from?
But I mean, I remember the closest I ever came to a nervous breakdown. I never thought I was someone who, I thought nervous breakdowns, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Why would people have such a thing? But I remember waking up on the Sunday before Christmas in 2008 and thinking, like, damn, this is the closest I've ever gotten, and it was looking pretty grim, because at that point, we, even though the 4th launch of SpaceX had succeeded, we were still running out of money, because we had three failures and only 1 success. Yeah. Still not enough. And then the financing round for Tesla had not closed, and we had only 2 days, maybe two. I think it was like 2 or 3 days, maybe, to close it before Christmas. So I was like, man, this could be a really bad end of the year. Maybe both companies will fail.
Did you cry? Screams?
No, I wasn't. No, I didn't cry.
Smash your apartment? No. No.
My sleep was difficult. I wasn't expecting them to call. I actually thought they were on vacation because it was so close to Christmas. I thought it was only a few days before Christmas. So I thought, well, there's no way they're going to call. They must have gone home for the year. But they called and they said that SpaceX had won this $1.4 billion contract.
What was your reaction to that piece of news?
I said, I love you. Which I don't think is a normal response for NASA contracting officers.
Yeah.
So that was good. And then a few days later, we closed the Tesla financing round on the last hour of the last day when it was possible, which was 6 p.m., Christmas Eve, 2008.
Yeah, as we consider sort of the fossil record, the history of civilization, it's important to bear in mind, like, there could be some natural event or some man-made event that ends civilization as we know it, or in life as we know it. And so it's important that we try to become a multi-planet civilization, extend life beyond Earth, and to do so as quickly as we can. That window of opportunity may be open for a long time, or it may be open for a short time, but we should not assume that it is open for a long time. We should take action and become a multi-planet civilization as soon as possible. And that's kind of like the defensive reason. I do want to emphasize it's multiplanetary, not single planet, but somewhere else. We want to become a multi-planet civilization, have life on on Mars, Moon, maybe Venus, the moons of Jupiter, throughout the solar system, and then ultimately extend life beyond the solar system to other star systems. And I think that's the future that's incredibly exciting. I think that's the future that we want. And you know, I'm not really super hardcore about being ultra-environmental in all things, because I think that you don't want to make life miserable. We want to create a better future, but a better future is not one where we are constantly depriving ourselves of things we love. I mean, the reason I wanted to create the Roadster was to show that you could have an electric car that's better than a gasoline car. And ultimately, I believe we can create a rocket that uses renewable fuels.
Really?
Fuel that's actually created from sunlight. I mean, sunlight and electricity. I don't mean like biofuel. That uses electricity, water, and carbon dioxide. But until we do, we must still have rockets. And so we need to figure out how to have the things we love and not destroy the world. That's the trick of it. Obviously, you have to have sustainable energy production and sustainable energy consumption. So the sustainable energy production, you need the solar panels plus the battery, because the sun doesn't shine at night, and then those electric cars, electric vehicles in general. Yeah. So, but I mean, the really exciting thing is if you have with solar plus battery plus electric vehicles, we have a fully sustainable future. This is a future you can feel really excited and optimistic about. I think it really matters. Yeah.
To start off, could you tell us, you famously said when you were younger there were 5 problems that you thought were most important for you to work on. Mm-hmm. If you were 22 today, what would the 5 problems that you would think about working on be?
Well, first of all, I think if somebody is doing something that is useful to the rest of society, I think that's a good thing. Like, it doesn't have to change the world. Like, you know, if you're doing something that has high value to people, and frankly, even if it's something, if it's like just a little game, or, you know, some improvement in photo sharing or something, if it has a small amount of good for a large number of people, I think that's fine. Like, stuff doesn't need to be changed the world just to be good.
Do you think people that want to be useful today should get PhDs?
Mostly not.
So what is the best way to be useful?
Some yes, but mostly not.
How should someone figure out how they can be most useful?
Whatever this thing is that you're trying to create, what would be the utility delta compared to the current state of the art times how many people it would affect? So that's why I think having something that makes a big difference but affects a sort of small to moderate number of people is great, as is something that makes even a small difference but affects a vast number of people. Like the area, under the curve.
Under the curve.
Yeah, exactly. The area under the curve would actually be roughly similar for those two things. So it's actually really about just trying to be useful and matter. You know, some people wonder, like, why do we have the Roadster with the astronaut, Starman? And it actually just came from a discussion of my friend Jonas. I was at his kitchen, and I was like, normally when they do a rocket launch, they launch a rocket concrete, but that doesn't sound very inspiring. So, what do you think the most sort of fun thing is that we could launch? And he was like, well, why don't you just launch a Tesla? And that's a great idea. And then another friend went, she said, why don't you put a tiny Tesla on the dashboard? So we put a tiny Tesla on the dashboard with a tiny Starman in the tiny Tesla. This is just to confuse the aliens in the future. They were like, what the heck is this? So, just want something to capture the imagination, get people excited about space. What are some of the other problems that are likely to most affect the future of humanity? It really wasn't from the perspective of what's the rank-ordered best way to make money, which is okay, but it was really what I think is going to most affect the future of humanity. So I think the biggest terrestrial problem we've got is sustainable energy, but the production and consumption of energy in a sustainable manner. If we don't solve that this century, we're in deep trouble. And then the other one being the extension of life beyond Earth to make life multiplanetary. So that's the basis for, the latter is the basis for SpaceX, and the former is the basis for Tesla and Solar City. When I started SpaceX, initially I thought that, well, there's no way one could possibly start a rocket company. I wasn't that crazy.
If there was, an American base on Mars, it would certainly prompt other countries to want to establish their, base on Mars too. But I do think it would be better to have competition than cooperation. It's not.
So you encourage companies in other countries to start their own endeavor to go to Mars as well?
Yes, I think it would be better off with competition rather than insisting. Like the space station, you've got the International Space Station, but when governments are all sort of forced to go in lockstep, it tends to not make things go faster. Yeah, we want some sort of positive competitive element, I think. So we don't like people going to war or anything, but just like some positive competitive element like the Olympics. Something if people compete hard and it's sort of good sportsmanship and everything, and the net result is better than if there was no competition. Like the Olympics with no competition wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, so I think some positive competitive thing would be better, and we should definitely not insist that all countries go at the same pace, or some collection of countries go at the same pace. That would slow things down dramatically, and maybe not even happen.
One of the things I find the thing that sort of limits most people is their own sort of self-limiting. If you don't believe you can do something, you won't do it. So, but if you believe that you can do something, or that maybe you can do something, then and then you try doing it, then I think you will find that you can do far more than you realize. Just try it. This may sound crazy, but if you haven't tried it.
There are so many things to worry about, so many things to be concerned about. There are many troubles in the world, of course, and these are important, and we need to solve them. But we also need things that make us excited to be alive, that make us glad to wake up in the morning and be fired up about the future and think, yeah, the future is going to be great. And this space exploration is one of those things. And becoming a spacefaring civilization, being out there among the stars, this is one of the things that I know makes me glad to be alive. I think it makes many people glad to be alive. It's one of the best things. And there's really, we're faced with a choice. Which future do you want? Do you want the future where we become a spacefaring civilization and are in many worlds and are out there among the stars, or one where we are forever confined to Earth? And I say it is the first. And I hope you agree with me.
One thing I really like about you is you are unusually fearless and willing to go in the face of other people telling you something is crazy. And I know a lot of pretty crazy people, you still stand out. Where does that come from, or how do you think about making a decision when everyone tells you this is a crazy idea? Or where do you get the internal strength to do that?
Well, first of all, I'd say I actually think I feel fear quite strongly. So it's not as though I just have the absence of fear. I feel it quite strongly. But there are just times when something is important enough, you believe in it enough, that you do it in spite of the fear.
So speaking of important things,
like people shouldn't think people shouldn't think, well, I feel fear about this and therefore I shouldn't do it. It's normal to feel fear. Like there'd have to be something mentally wrong if you didn't feel fear.
So you just feel it and let the importance of it drive you to do it anyway.
Yeah, actually something that can be helpful is fatalism to some degree. If you just accept the probabilities, then that diminishes fear. When starting SpaceX, I thought the odds of success were less than 10%, and I just accepted that actually probably I would just lose everything, but that maybe we would make some progress if we could just move the ball forward. Even if we died, maybe some other company could pick up the baton and keep moving it forward, so that we still do some good.
Could you tell me, and could you tell also to thousands of people who maybe will be motivated by your answer, what keeps you fighting for your vision? What helps you to reach your dream?
Well, I mean, I think I'm kind of constitutionally just geared to just keep going. I don't know. It's yeah. I mean, it just I don't know. I mean, certainly there are times when things don't go well, and then that's quite dispiriting for sure. And so then it's difficult to proceed with the same level of enthusiasm. But I do think the things that we're doing are pretty important to the future. And if we don't succeed, then it's not clear what other things would succeed. And if we don't succeed, then we'll be certainly pointed to as a reason why people shouldn't even try for these things. So I think it's important that we do whatever is necessary to keep going. First of all, I really need to give some thought to how can I provide advice that would be most helpful, and I'm not sure I've given enough thought to that to give you the best possible answer. But I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and just being really rigorous in making that assessment, because people tend to a natural human tendency is wishful thinking. So a challenge for entrepreneurs is to say, well, what's the difference between really believing in your ideals and sticking to them versus pursuing some unrealistic dream that doesn't actually have merit? And that is a really difficult thing to tell. Can you tell the difference between those two things?
Right.
So you need to be sort of very rigorous in your self-analysis. I think certainly extremely tenacious, and then just work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100-hour weeks every week.
Gosh,
and
that's
then
a lot of work.
All those things improve the odds of success.
Okay.
I mean, if other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that in 1 year you will achieve what they achieve. You will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve. How do you stay focused, motivated, and maintain enthusiasm when things don't go the way you had hoped? I think my sort of drive to get it done is somewhat disconnected from hope, enthusiasm, or anything else. I actually just don't care about hope or enthusiasm, motivation. I just give it everything I've got, irrespective of what the circumstances may be. You just keep going and get it done.
I think that the final thing I would encourage you to do is, now is the time to take risk. You don't have, you don't have kids. Your obligation. Well, sorry, probably don't have kids. But as you get older, your obligations increase. So and once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. So now is the time to do that before you have those obligations. So I would encourage you to take risks now. Do something bold. You won't regret it. Thank you. And the truth is, like right now on Earth, you can basically go anywhere in 24 hours. I mean, anywhere. You can fly over the Antarctic pole and parachute out 24 hours from now if you want. You can get parachuted to the top of Mount Everest from the right plane, and you can go to the bottom of the ocean. Earth, from a physical standpoint, you can go anywhere. So there is no real physical frontier on Earth anymore, but space is that frontier. And so I think it's going to appeal to anyone with that exploratory spirit.
Yeah, I think we want to be like, as Grace was saying, just like we want to, work hard, but then have a good time as well. And, it's important to look forward to coming to work in the morning, and you spend a lot of your life at work, so we want to make it like a real good vibe, And it's like, the acid test is, do you look forward to coming to work in the morning? And if not, we should fix it. So, yeah, it should be like, cool, work. That should be great. So I very much support any actions in this direction. So, like, if you want to do some like quirky stuff or whatever, in your work area, that's totally cool by me. Obviously, look at me. So, I really want to thank the Tesla team and the government officials that have been really helpful in making this happen. You guys achieved like an incredible outcome that I think hardly anyone expected. And here we are with this kick-ass factory,
and it looks great, you know, and there's still obviously going to be challenges ahead. That's the way it goes. But I'm very impressed with this kind of work, and if you can get this done, you know, what else can we do? It's going to be a very exciting future.
When I was young, I didn't really know what I was going to do when I got older. People kept asking me, but then eventually I thought that the idea of inventing things would be really cool. And the reason I thought that was because I read a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, which said that a sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's really true. If you go back, say, 300 years, the things that we take for granted today you'd be burned at the stake for. You know, being able to fly, that's crazy. Being able to see over long distances, being able to communicate, having effectively, with the internet, a group mind of sorts, and having access to all the world's information instantly from almost anywhere on the earth. This is stuff that really would be magic, or would be considered magic in times past. In fact, I think it actually goes beyond that, because there are many things that we take for granted today that weren't even imagined in times past. They weren't even in the realm of magic. So it actually goes beyond that. So I thought, well, you know, if I can do some of those things, basically if I can advance technology, then that's like magic, and that would be really cool. And I also had sort of a slight existential crisis, because I was trying to figure out what does it all mean? Like, what's the purpose of things? And I came to the conclusion that if we can advance the knowledge of the world, if we can do things that expand the scope and scale of consciousness, then we're better able to ask the right questions and become more enlightened, and that's really the only way forward. I think the overarching point I want to make is that you know, you guys are the magicians of the 21st century. You know, don't let anything hold you back. Imagination is the limit, and go out there and create some magic.